Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Hawks Latest, your number one source for news, updates, rumors, opinions, and you guessed it, the latest and the greatest regarding the Atlanta Hawks. I'm your host, Zach Langley, aka Langley ATL. Today, we've got a full slate of updates to break down for you. This is the 162nd episode of Hawks Latest, presented by FanArt, so hopefully you guys have been enjoying the ride. I know I have, and a huge special thanks to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring today's video. But yeah, we got a lot to break down today, so before this video gets started, if you guys could go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe, it would be very much appreciated. It would go a very long way. And yeah, I guess we were getting a little too confident, getting a little too comfortable. We were being too positive on this channel. The Hawks had to be like, hey, stop. We need to humble you a little bit. And they did, because the Atlanta Hawks saw their mini win streak come to an end on Tuesday night. They fell to the Los Angeles Lakers 141-116 in a game that quickly got out of hand. I mean, it was pretty lopsided from start to finish. There was a little bit of a late push from Atlanta. They got our hopes up a little bit. I mean, it was a game that started at 10:30 at night, and so then at like 12:30, they decided, we're going to play with your hearts a little bit. I mean, that wasn't cool. Definitely a late night for me, having to, record the podcast and everything, but I'm just kidding. I love doing it, win or loss. But yeah, the Lakers controlled the tempo in this game, almost wire to wire, and reminded the Hawks just how thin their margin for error can be on the road, especially against elite talent. The Lakers have not been very elite this year, but they have elite talent on that roster. Luka Doncic, LeBron James, even guys like DeAndre Ayton, and even like Marcus Smart. Like they have a lot of talent on that team. They just haven't been able to put it all together. Well, they put it all together last night because, of course, they did. On the second night of a back-to-back against the Atlanta Hawks, against the guys that we cover and we love. In today's video, we are going to break down everything that went into the loss last night in Los Angeles, the tough loss to the Lakers. We're going to examine really what went wrong defensively. We're also going to discuss Jalen Johnson because he sucked last night. Just putting it lightly, he struggled. And it was rare. We don't see Jalen struggle like this often. So when he does, we've got to make a whole segment about that. And so we really need to talk about how the Hawks are able to respond when their top option is off, because it really wasn't a thing they were able to do last night, and that ultimately led to them losing. And finally, we're going to dive into the resurfacing Anthony Davis trade rumors that continue to surround Atlanta and just overshadow some of their wins of late. And so, we said that we were not going to talk about the AD stuff much more until there was more smoke there. Well, there's more smoke there, so y'all are definitely going to want to be tuned in to the third segment of today's video. So I know that was a lot, but we got a lot to break down, so I'm going to waste no more time. We're going to go ahead and jump right into it and start with a full breakdown of this Hawks-Lakers game. So they emphatically snapped their three-game losing streak with the 141-116 win over the Atlanta Hawks, delivering one of their most complete offensive and, I guess, defensive performances of the season. It was really, it looked like the team. It didn't look like the team that we scouted. It didn't look like the team that we fully game planned for. It was a different Lakers team. And while they maintained the same level of composure and same level of attacking on offense, they were just hitting their shots, man. They looked really good. It's nights like these when you have magnet ball, it paints a false picture of what you have, in your team. And so, regardless of what they've done this entire year, like a night like this is one that they'll definitely remember. The Hawks were on a win streak of their own. They had a 3-game win streak. The Lakers had a 3-game losing streak. So, both teams were playing with a lot of momentum. The Lakers clearly wanted to end their streak more. LeBron James led the way with 31 points, 10 assists, and 9 rebounds. He was 1 rebound short of a triple-double. That's the GOAT, man. I'm not going to sit here and talk about LeBron too much. Because this is the Hawks, but man, he killed it. This guy is over 40 years old. It's getting a little ridiculous, the level that he is still able to play at. And it was also this was the second night of a back-to-back for the Lakers, as we have discussed. And LeBron James, up until this point in the season, has not played a single second night of a back-to-back. He has played he's played on games of a back-to-back, but he has never played both games of a back-to-back all season. And he just decided to, for whatever reason, against the Hawks. I guess it was because they were losing over and over again. and like a win was definitely very important for them. So I guess he realized, hey, I just need to lock in. I just need to channel my 25-year-old self and play both nights of a back-to-back. And that was a decision that he absolutely did not regret, and the Lakers certainly did not regret. It's unprecedented in his 23rd NBA season. But Luka Doncic, who we all know how Luka got to the Lakers. I'm not even gonna explain the lore there, but he added 27 points and 12 assists. Luka is becoming an interesting watch. His whistle is monumental. I mean, he is averaging like over 12 free throws a game this season. I think like the next closest person is like at 9. Like it's the way he is officiated is so much different than everyone else in the league. Like it's like him and SGA, and then you got the rest of the league. But he's continuing to anchor, for better or for worse, he's anchoring the Lakers offense despite playing through a little bit of left groin soreness. So he suited up. He was also questionable. Both him and James were questionable entering the matchup, and it was trending towards them not playing. Well, guess what? They both were game time decisions, and they both played. And Atlanta, maybe they were game planning for them not to play. Like that's what it looked like. It looked like we were focused on them not playing with LeBron and Luka, and so maybe that was what we expected. That was the expectation. I mean, it makes sense to expect that LeBron wouldn't play, considering he hasn't played like an entire. He hasn't played back-to-backs the entire season, so I don't know. It's just nothing really went in Atlanta's favor in this game, and from the opening minutes, it was clear that Los Angeles was locked in and that this was not the same old Lakers team that we were taking on. They jumped out to an early lead and never let Atlanta settle defensively. They had them running, man. I mean, they were playing faster than they usually do. I mean, they were rotating on offense. It looked really good, and a lot of it was just an example of them being on that night, because Atlanta's defense was really bad, yes, but a lot of the Lakers' makes just came on some absolute prayers. I mean, their shot making was elite, but the most important thing is that their execution was consistent. Los Angeles shot nearly 62% from the field in the first half and like 59% from the. It was something absolutely ridiculous, and they went into halftime with an 81-60 lead, which was their highest scoring half of the season. Give it up for the Atlanta Hawks defense. We gave them a lot of confidence moving forward. I mean, I don't think they'll replicate this type of offensive half the rest of the season. Doncic was particularly devastating in the second quarter, because the Hawks were still kind of hanging in there. I mean, we were down by a couple buckets, but it looked like with a little bit of a run, we could get right back into the swing of things. Well, in the second quarter, as soon as the Lakers started to gain momentum, Doncic started playing extremely well. He hit 3 consecutive three-pointers while leading a 17-0 Lakers run that completely flipped the game's momentum. The Hawks never looked bad. Well, they never really gained much momentum back. They had a little bit of a run late in the game that we'll talk about in a second. But after that 17-0 run, it was clear they were going to be fighting from behind the rest of the night. And so coming out of halftime, Los Angeles put the game away with a 12-1 run to push the lead to as many as 32 points. And that would effectively end it for most teams. But as we all know, this Atlanta Hawks team has a lot of heart. They have more heart than maybe all other teams in the NBA. They're going to keep fighting. They're going to make the opposing team sweat a little bit, and they showed some fight. The Hawks gradually trimmed the deficit to 11 points late in the second half. And then every time momentum seemed to swing, though, the Lakers just responded with some timely, ridiculous shot making. Putting it simply, it was just a Lakers night. Sometimes there's not much you can do about their shot making. Now, obviously, the defense was not good, but a lot of teams will still miss open looks, like some of the ones that the Lakers were getting, and they were also draining some of the most ridiculous contested threes you'll ever see in your entire life. That comeback was a little bit exciting. It was led by Mo Gay, who was stellar on the defensive end. I mean, he's proving why he just deserves more and more nightly minutes. He's almost getting to the point where you can't justify leaving him on the bench for an entire game, let alone playing only 10 minutes per game. This is a guy who needs to be playing quality minutes. He's still very much a work in progress on the offensive end, but he is probably Atlanta's best overall defender. I mean, he was playing very good defense on LeBron James in that third, early fourth quarter, and it was making all the difference, and it allowed Atlanta to go on that run. But he's still he has the plays where it's that this guy's still a project. He got that steal, and then he went up for a dunk and he missed the dunk, and then Los Angeles responded with a made 3 in the corner because not everyone got back. And then that play right there really flipped momentum. Not that they didn't already have it, but that pretty much sealed it. Los Angeles finished the night with 19 made three-pointers after shooting just 8 for 36 from deep in their previous loss to Sacramento. Of course, man. Of course. For Atlanta in this game, Nickeil Alexander-Walker scored a team-high 26 points, while CJ McCollum added 25. I mean, the guards were looking good. As I said in the video prior to the matchup, I was saying, like, Atlanta, the guards had a big opportunity to make a statement because, LA really lacks quality guard defenders other than like a old Marcus Smart. Corey Kispert also chipped in 19 points in his second game with the Hawks. The new additions look great. It gives me a lot of confidence about their roles moving forward. Both were acquired in the Trae Young trade, as we all know. And so, yeah, like in their second game, having a game that effective, like it's encouraging. It's encouraging to say the least. I know this isn't a very encouraging segment because the Hawks got killed, but there were encouraging signs. The Hawks just simply could not get stops in this game. Jake LaRavia and DeAndre Ayton each scored 17 for LA. It was just an even, balanced scoring effort for the LA Lakers. Rui Hachimura returned from injury on a minutes restriction. He added 7 points off the bench. He's such a lethal corner shooter that really spaces the floor for LA. It was a rough night overall for Atlanta, especially on the defensive end. And a lot of individual players did have poor performances. That leads us into the biggest takeaway from this game, which is very important and it's very interesting to cover because it raises an important and somewhat uncomfortable question, just about this team's, future outlook, but really just looking at this season in particular, because obviously there's going to be roster changes, even by the trade deadline, but even, starting next year, there's going to be a lot of differences on this roster. But looking at the guys we have now, the question for the Hawks moving forward is, what happens when Jalen Johnson struggles? What is their plan B? What is their backup plan? This is a genuine problem that they have to discuss because against the Lakers, that was evident. Like Jalen struggled. Jalen had maybe his worst game of the season last night. And Atlanta did not have a backup plan. They didn't expect Jalen to struggle. It was clear, when he was on, the team was doing really poor, and when he was off, they were working their way without him, but they never were able to fully put it together. And Jalen has, I don't want to be too negative on Jalen Johnson. He's been absolutely outstanding this season. And so this obviously, this isn't his fault because he's due for a bad game. He's not ever just going to be perfect night in and night out. He's going to have games like this, as unfortunate as it is, because he is still very young. And he's firmly established himself as Atlanta's top option in such a short amount of time. But this is a new role for him. This is really these are his first few games as the true number one option, considering that Trae Young is off the roster. Tuesday night was seriously a reminder that he is still young and he's growing into that role. It's going to take a lot of time. There's going to be a lot of growing pains. Against the Lakers, Johnson had one of his toughest games of the season on both ends of the floor. And both ends of the floor is crucial because, defensively, he was maybe even worse than he was offensively in this game. Early in the game, it was clear that Johnson wasn't going to have his usual efficiency. He's usually a very efficient scorer and at least an okay defender. He's been having a bad defensive season, but he's able to make up for it because of his size, his stature, and his ability to switch. But that just wasn't the case in this game. And the Hawks never really found a reliable alternative plan, which is what good teams do. That's what good coaching staffs do. They make it so if your star player's having a bad game, you're going to have this forward step into the role and make up for it. But that wasn't the case here. If this game was going to turn into a shootout, which it was looking like it was going to because the Hawks could not string together any sort of defensive stops, they needed it. Jalen Johnson, they needed their star to match the intensity and the production of players like LeBron James and Luka Doncic, and he wasn't unable to do that. When that didn't happen, the chances of stealing a win became increasingly slim and almost zero. And so bringing it back to defensively, things were even more concerning. Like I said, Jalen has not had a good defensive season, and that should not come as a surprise. Jalen he struggles on the defensive end, but like I said, he's able to keep up because of the intangibles. And at his best, he can be a good and effective defender. He was not last night. He was repeatedly hunted on the defensive end. He was looking a little bit like Luka Doncic on the defensive end last night. And I'm not even exaggerating. And I'm not even trying to be funny. He was not He was not good on the defensive end, and it presents a major problem for Atlanta. He was repeatedly targeted in pick and roll actions, like hunted, genuinely hunted. And the Hawks really just struggled to provide effective help defense because, good teams adapt and they see that a player is struggling on that end. And so then they'll switch their matchups or they'll play help defense. They'll make sure they double team certain guys. And the Hawks were not effective in doing that. Los Angeles, and here's the frustrating thing, the Lakers did not do anything like out of the ordinary, like schematically. They ran their normal pick and roll sets, the normal like Luka Doncic led offense that we know they can do, and they took advantage of the breakdowns that happened defensively, and that was what ultimately was able to guide LA in securing a very much needed victory. Atlanta as a team, and it wasn't just Jalen, like Atlanta as a team, that was one of the poorest defensive performances I've seen in recent memory. It was definitely one of their poorest defensive performances all season. And so this also kind of brings us back to the whole Trae Young thing that we had mentioned a lot on this channel, because a lot of people solely blamed Trae for the defensive struggles Atlanta was seeing this season. While Trae obviously did not help with that, I don't see how people could not realize that this was a team problem. This was a scheme problem. This was an overall issue that they needed to address. This was not just like a Trae Young thing. Like obviously getting rid of Trae, there's clearly they're clearly trying to get this identity together. But the defense still has, the longest possible way to go. And so yeah, while some of the Lakers shot making was at an elite level in this game, much of it came from blown assignments and slow rotations and just a lack of physicality both on the perimeter and on the inside. Onyeka Okongwu was kind of a ghost in this game until late in the game when we started to make a little bit of a comeback. Just inconsistencies that the Atlanta Hawks cannot have if they want to be taken seriously as a team. It raises a critical issue, though. If controlling Jalen Johnson is enough to control the Hawks as a team, who are they as a team? It makes Atlanta so much easier to game plan against, and it's almost why I keep saying like the Lakers gave the rest of the league a blueprint on how to solve the Atlanta Hawks, and it's just like having that blueprint, it's just not sustainable for success, moving forward, especially on the road when you already are outnumbered in terms of fans and also in an away arena. There's a lot of factors that were not in Atlanta's favor, and I just hope that this isn't something that the rest of the league sees and then realizes, okay, if we control Jalen Johnson, we can stop the Hawks, and then there's nothing else they can do about it. That's not that, you're not going to be a good team if they can just routinely do that. So it's important that with all this negativity that I am preaching right now, it does not take away from Johnson's season. He has been remarkable all season, and he is due for games like these. Growing pains are inevitable in a player's first year as the unquestioned focal point of an offense, because now defenses are fully able to game plan for him, and it has not been good for Jalen Johnson. And so he'll adjust to it, he'll adapt. But yeah, it was a very discouraging game last night. It's now on Quinn Snyder and the rest of the coaching staff and the rest of the players to develop counters to this issue, whether that's leaning more heavily on late in games, which they've done in games past. They also, if they're going to adjust rotations or change defensive coverages to protect Johnson when opponents hunt him, that's up to them. And we can't really do much about it. We just got to sit back and watch it all unfold. Until Atlanta proves it can win games when Jalen Johnson has an off night, opposing coaches will continue to test that vulnerability. And hopefully it doesn't come back to bite Atlanta too much. Fast breaks, buzzer beaters, and block parties are back, and Underdog is the best place to get in on all of the action. Playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick whether your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like points, rebounds, steals, and more. Get your picks right and you can win up to 5,000 times your cash. This week on Underdog, I'm looking at 76ers versus Cavaliers and selecting Darius Garland for higher than 16.5 points and Quentin Grimes for higher than 10.5 points. Download the app today and use promo code BASKETBALLFAN to score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code BASKETBALLFAN. Underdog. Make picks, win money. I said I was done talking about Anthony Davis and the saga regarding his availability in a trade. I said I would stop talking about that until rumors started heating up again. Well, I don't know if you would call this heating up, but there's just a lot going on right now that feels a little bit timely. It feels almost like something is brewing a little bit. I'm not here to just completely aid in the speculation, but it is very relevant to talk about. because there's a lot going on with Anthony Davis right now. The rumors are kind of back in full force, if I'm being completely honest. Like, just when it seemed that the rumors would cool off and that I wouldn't have to talk about this again, we're here. The trade deadline is now definitely less than a month away. Like, we're really creeping up on it, and the smoke here is still there. And so, as I've always said on this channel, when there's smoke, there's fire. And there's more smoke. I mean, the house is burning down at this point. Atlanta, as we all know, has reportedly been listed as one of the top suitors for the 32-year-old big man. I mean, we have covered all of this in videos past, but if you have not tuned in, then I'm giving this for you. Up until now, I'll give this for you. Atlanta just repeatedly has been listed as a suitor for Davis, there hasn't been too much traction on talks because the Mavericks wanted Zachary Ricochet and the Hawks didn't want to give up Ricochet, and so talks died down, but apparently they're back and talking again. This is just a thing that's not going away. It's not going away, and for better or for worse, it's fun to cover. It's very interesting to cover. And so while last week's hand injury to Anthony Davis, because if you don't know, Davis suffered a hand injury, and it was shown that there was some damage in a ligament. So then he was walking around with a arm sling on for damage in his hand, which you don't see often. Very interesting stuff there. And then all of a sudden we got some news on his injury, and that new information opened the door for what could potentially be an Anthony Davis trade to Atlanta. So ESPN's Shams Charania initially reported that Davis would likely need surgery, which would have essentially ended all pre-deadline trade talks. I mean, if Anthony Davis if he was going to get surgery, he would have probably been out for the season, and the Hawks would not have traded for a guy who was going to be out for the season. I mean, why would they do that? However, Charania was wrong. This is not something you see often, an ESPN NBA insider just completely whiffing on something. Shams whiffed on this. He did not get it right. And so then he clarified hours later that surgery is not required, and that Davis is expected to only miss approximately 6 weeks. Well, the trade deadline is in 3 or 4 weeks. This is kind of he's sitting out in a perfect time for a deal to go down. If that timeline holds, let's say he actually is out for 6 weeks, Davis could potentially return sometime in late February. And so it's definitely enough time between February and the postseason to develop him into to really get him acquainted with your system, and then and just enough time for a potential playoff run. So this possibility, combined with reports from Mark Stein indicating real optimism about his return this season, has reignited trade discussions with multiple teams. Multiple outlets have confirmed that the Mavericks are still talking with several teams. None of them mentioned Atlanta specifically in any of their reports, but if we're basing it off previous reports, Atlanta being the most interested team, that has been the assumption that Atlanta is the team that is, most active in talks with Dallas. One could assume that Atlanta is once again, in these talks with Dallas. Just the talks have been reignited. And so adding fuel to the speculation, which I had a tweet that absolutely blew up yesterday. And I was just tweeting the injury report. I was not, forcing any agendas with this. I was not trying to start anything, but I just tweeted the injury report, and I said that Zachary Ricochet, Kristaps Porzingis, and Luke Kennard have all been ruled out for tonight's game, which obviously I said that yesterday. That was for the Lakers game yesterday. Many fans definitely took that as the deal is done. Many Dallas fans found that tweet and they ran with it. They said, "Oh, this because this is the exact package for Anthony Davis. This means that a deal is going through. Boys, we did it. We got AD off our team." I want to say that Luke actually got hurt. This isn't a situation of CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert being ruled out for the Wizards right before the Trae Young trade happened. That was not a situation like that. Porzingis and Zach and Luke Kennard are all dealing with injuries of their own. Now the Zachary Ricochet stuff is a little confusing to me. I don't remember him going down with an injury, but it could have been a thing where he woke up on the wrong side of the bed. It wasn't something that happened on the court in a game, but there's practices, there's a whole bunch of other things. So that stuff's been a little bit confusing, but Luke Kennard genuinely strained his neck in 2 games ago, and so that wasn't just a random listing on the injury report. Now, obviously, if an AD deal were to go through, Kennard's expiring contract would likely be included, but it's very interesting. It's very interesting to talk about, to think about. But yeah, the appeal is obvious for an Anthony Davis to Atlanta. When healthy, Atlanta, Anthony Davis is one of the most impactful two-way players in the league. It's just a matter of when healthy. And in the 2026, a healthy Anthony Davis might be a little unrealistic. It might be kind of shooting for the stars. And so, like, you cannot have that unreliability. You got to have, like the best doctors in the world if you are confident in making an Anthony Davis trade. He would instantly elevate Atlanta's ceiling on both ends of the floor. While he is no longer the defender that, he once was, like, this is still a guy who can be very impactful on the defensive end when he wants to be. And so it's just a matter of when he wants to be and if he can stay healthy, which, like I said, unlikely. Not really like a realistic scenario in today's NBA. But yeah, trading for Anthony Davis would be a massive gamble. I mean, there is no doubt about it. I mean, his injury history is well documented. And even if he were to return late in the regular season, as expected, like he's expected to return like late February, early March, which, that would be a great thing. And on paper, like theoretically, this would give him enough time to get adjusted to the lineup before the postseason. However, there's no guarantee that he's even healthy for the playoffs. Like, if he returns at that time, cool. But the likelihood is that he probably gets injured again and then would be out for the playoffs. And then you're spending $60 million to have a guy who just cannot stay healthy. So a lot of pros here, but a lot of cons. And so I want to know your thoughts on that down below. Atlanta would seriously need to weigh whether the upside, if it outweighs the risk. The Hawks are clearly competitive and fun to watch in the post-Trae Young era. I mean, now last night, this isn't like relevant because last night, obviously, like we got killed and we didn't look very competitive. But overall, this is a competitive team who plays really hard. But mortgaging assets and a lot of your depth for a player with significant durability concerns could backfire quickly. Now, if you could get him on a gamble, like if you could get him on an absolute bargain, like, just Kristaps Porzingis and Luke Kennard's expiring contract for Anthony Davis, I mean, why not pull the trigger? But also, like, that is still a lot of long-term money for a guy who's old and aging and has a lot of injury concerns. Like, there's, again, a lot of pros, a lot of cons. It could backfire quickly if they were to be too aggressive in this deal. I don't think Onzi will be too aggressive in this deal. I think this is just kind of a thing of like, we're going to see if we can get him on a bargain. I truly think that's the mentality he's pulling. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Dallas just wanted to trade him for cap relief to build around future financial flexibility for the Cooper Flag era, which is well underway because he's having a stellar rookie season. The fact that these rumors still persist now on January 14th, it suggests Atlanta is at least doing its due diligence. And if Davis can be acquired at a discount, I would not be surprised if they went ahead and pulled the trigger. So for now, all eyes remain on the trade deadline and whether the Hawks decide to take a real swing, because AD on the Hawks could be very interesting, and it's going to be very interesting to cover as February 6th approaches. So now moving on to the final section, the viewer comment section. I hope you guys have been enjoying this new thing that we've been unraveling. I love responding to your comments and sharing my insight on it. I'm sure you guys too, because it gives you guys a chance for your voice to be heard. And I love doing it. So let's start with the first comment. It's from @CoolBreeze4906. He said, "The players and organization quit on Trae." That's how I saw it. Yeah, I don't know if they necessarily quit on him, but it sure did seem like it. I think it was more of like they ended up just conforming to the outside noise that they had been ignoring for so many years. I feel like the organization did like him, like the coaching staff liked him, and the players obviously liked him. So I don't want to say the players quit on Trae, because the players had nothing but positive things to say once he was rumored that he was going to Washington. I feel like they all kind of wanted more time to play with him, but it was just like the writing was in the wall. The results were undeniable of how much better they were when he was on the bench or with the team, and how much worse they were when he was on the floor because of how they had to adjust their defensive rotations. So we all know what happened there. So I wouldn't say they quit on him. I don't think the players quit on him. You can say that the organization quit on him because I thought it was a little disrespectful not giving him at least a solid extension this past offseason. Now this could prove to be a genius move from Monty Saleh. In the short term it doesn't look too great, but also it was more of a situation where Trae could have left in free agency this offseason. He didn't even want to get to that. I mean, he said that in one of his recent interviews with Mark Spears that he didn't want to leave Atlanta with nothing. So then they both mutually agreed to get him traded before the deadline, and a deal just came about very quickly with the Washington Wizards. So, you can argue that the organization quit on Trae. I wouldn't frame it as that, but I can see where your frustration is. Now moving on to @JamesEdwards7946. I say if Atlanta can afford AD, they can afford Jaren Jackson Jr. He's better than AD, Gafford, and Zubac, younger, more versatile, and is available. Okay, I don't know if Jaren Jackson Jr. is better than AD and Zubac. He's probably better than Zubac. I will say he's obviously better than Daniel Gafford. I don't know if he's better than Anthony Davis, but he's not far off. And JJJ has a Defensive Player of the Year on him. But one thing about JJJ is that he sucks as a rebounder. He's one of the worst rebounding bigs in the NBA. In terms of amount of minutes played and in the role that he is. He is, compared to his peers, a very, very poor rebounder. I don't necessarily know if I love the fit of Jaren Jackson Jr. on this team. Now, that might be a little controversial, and I want you guys to all let me know down below in the comments what you think. But I seriously don't know if I love the fit of JJJ on this team. Unless we were confident in Jalen as a 3 moving forward, and then we wanted to play Jaren at the 4 and maybe Onyeka at the 5, then, you get a very physically intimidating roster. Or even if you trade Onyeka or whoever, or a KP for a big, like a Zubac or something, then you have a really scary 3-4-5. But then you got to consider Jalen is going to have to defend threes or maybe even guards, and then you're going to have 2 kind of big men at the 4 and the 5, which may lead to some clunky offense. So I don't know if I love the fit. I definitely don't like Jaren at the 5. So then we'd have to think about him at the 4, and I don't know. It's kind of a weird fit to me now. Defensively, adding a big like that would do well, but also after this year where he's making 30-something million, his extension kicks in where he's making I think 45 to 50-something million annually. I don't know if he's worth that type of contract, and obviously I don't think AD is worth the contract that he has right now. So it's all very interesting. If I had to say out of all the guys you mentioned, Zubac would probably be my ideal target, considering he's making $18 million for the next 3 years and is one of the best rim protectors in the NBA. He'd probably be my top guy because he also kind of matches the timeline a little bit. And I don't even know if Jaren's actually available. So the Hawks may have to still overpay despite him having a little bit of a down year. And I just don't know if that would be worth it. But that's a very interesting comment. Maybe I'll do a whole segment in the near future on Jaren Jackson Jr. because he is a very interesting target. And if he does, if there are rumors of him, Memphis just doing a full fire sale at the deadline, getting rid of Morant and Jaren, I would expect Atlanta to at least get involved. Maybe call Memphis, see what they're kind of envisioning as a return package for one of their best defensive players. So I appreciate the comment. That's very interesting. At Tommy Bowman 4699 said, we just need a good rebounder, really fast, tall guy that can move fast, got some weight on him. We need a 7-footer guy for rebounding purposes only. Yeah, that kind of relates to the last segment. That's kind of why I don't really want Jaren too much, or I wouldn't give a whole lot up for Jaren, because the Hawks need some rebounding. It's been better in the past few games than it has been all season, and that's been an encouraging sign, but it's still they got a long way to go in the rebounding department. They're still getting out-rebounded by most of their opponents. And that's why I always say a guy like Zubac. Now, I don't know if Zubac is the exact kind of archetype that you were describing, because you're saying a really fast, tall guy that can move and got some. I mean, he's got some weight on him for sure. Yeah, we do, because the 7'3" guy, Kristaps Porzingis, that we've got on our roster. Not only does he never play, but 2, he cannot rebound the ball. He's kind of like Jaren Jackson Jr. in a way, except Jaren's probably much better defensively. So yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I'm trying to think of some guys that would maybe be fit that archetype. Right now, top of my head, it's really just Zubac, and maybe there's some other guys. Maybe there's some free agents, or maybe there's a 2-way guy that could get upgraded and be kind of a guy there for rebounding purposes only. Who would have fit perfectly into that role? N'Faly Dante. And we were excited about the N'Faly Dante move this past offseason. Bringing him in on a standard deal. Trading for him. I'm a little upset that he tore his ACL and he's out for the season, because he probably would have found minutes by now, and probably with our rebounding concerns would have found a spot maybe towards the end of the rotation. I don't know. I appreciate the comment though. Let me know down below some of the guys, some specific guys that you're talking about, because that's a very interesting situation, us bringing in another 7-footer guy for rebounding purposes only. There's a lot of good targets out there, but name me some specific ones in the comments down below. So that's going to do it for today's episode of Hawks Latest. If you enjoyed today's breakdown, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single update here on the channel. We're going to be pumping out videos every single day, keep you guys informed on the latest and the greatest regarding the Atlanta Hawks. But let me know down below in the comments what were your thoughts on the Hawks-Lakers game last night. Did y'all stay up for it? Were y'all a sicko like me? Were y'all sickos and staying up for this team? It was a late night. I'm actually recording this in the morning. I usually record them at night, so definitely running off of some coffee because it was a late night for me. Let me know your thoughts on Jalen's struggles and how this team has adapted with him struggling, and also kind of like how you want them to assess that moving forward. And what will your thoughts be on an Anthony Davis trade, the thing that we have been talking about for quite some time, but once again are starting to heat back up. But once again, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Zach Langley, aka Langley ATL, and I will see you guys next time.